Hello. For those of you who've met me before, I run the fan table at the Dragon Con convention. I run the Venture Brothers fan table, and recently one of the things that everyone has asked when they come by the fan table is, how can I get a Venture Brothers lunchbox? Well, at this time they're not being manufactured, so if you want one you're going to have to make it yourself. And what I'm doing here is setting up a tutorial for you so that if you want a lunchbox you can make it yourself. The first thing you'll want to do though is go out and buy yourself a lunchbox. I got these from Hobby Lobby because quite frankly they're cheaper, but you can also get them from AC Moore as well as from Michael's Hobbies and Crafts. You've got three standard forms. One is a square with an open top. The other is your standard lunchbox with the handle on top and it opens on the side. And your third is a round shape, much like you would see for a hat box. Now, when you start working on these, you are going to have some choices. The first is, they all come in white. Do you want your lunchbox to be white, or do you want it to have a nice colored background? If you want it to be white, you can go ahead and skip ahead to the third step, because the first two steps of this video is going to involve how to mask and tape up and get your box ready for painting, and then the second step is going to involve the actual painting process. Now, for those of you who do want to go ahead and paint your lunchbox, you're going to need a couple things. This is painter's tape. It works really well because it doesn't have any, the residue is very low on it. It'll hold, and it can even leave it on for a year, and when you remove it you don't have to deal with the residue that you would have to deal with normal masking tape. You're also going to need some sort of a sharp blade, either from an Olfa blade or from an X-Acto blade. Towel's always recommended, and lighter fluid. If you don't have lighter fluid, you'll find that WD-40 works just as well. The first step, and newspaper. Can't go anywhere without newspaper. But your first step is going to be to remove your price tag. Nothing ruins a lunchbox worse than a bad price tag. These things do not want to peel off well, so just use your fingers as best you can. And then when you get to the point where you've got as much paper off as you can, put some lighter fluid on it, or WD-40, either one will work. Let it sit for a few seconds, and then keep peeling it. That loosens up the paper, it loosens up the residue, and you'll use your rag to clean it off. Now, because you don't want to sit here and watch me clean up residue, we're going to skip ahead to the next step. But really, it's just a step and repeat process until the residue is gone. You do want to make sure though that it's completely gone before you paint, otherwise it will ruin your paint job. Now, for masking, the square boxes are wonderful and easy to do because they've got nice straight edges. These rounded ones, of course, a lot more time consuming. You have to use smaller pieces because everything is curved. But you start off with a decent sized piece, and because I'm covering up the trim and the hardware, you don't have to cover up the trim. That's really going to be left up to you. Hardware you're most likely going to want to cover up completely. But if you choose to go and cover up the trim, you're not going to need much of this tape to cover it up. So, yeah. If we can zoom in here, all I do is take the tape and put it over, and then use my fingernails to work the tape into the grooves. So if you don't have fingernails, well, good luck. Find somebody who has them, get some fake nails for the day. But that's all you do, and you just keep overlapping your pieces and repeating the process. And just work it right in there. And when you start getting to the corners here, you can't use longer pieces, you're going to have to use shorter pieces, maybe about 1/4 of an inch. It depends upon how much of a curve you have to deal with. And it's the same process. Just pushing it down, squeezing it in, and working it around. Okay. And this is all that it is. The excitement that it is you just keep putting little bits of tape on here and wedging them into the cracks. It's tedious. It's time consuming. Depending upon how much curve you have to your lunchbox, it can take up to an hour to do. It's because the curved pieces have to be smaller. It takes more time. So for your first lunchbox, I suggest starting off with one of these nice standard square ones. And eventually you'll get your own rhythm going with this. But of course you're looking at this and you're thinking, wow, that's like all over the place. How's that going to help? Well, once you get it wedged in there as much as you can, you get your blade out and you stick that blade into the corners as much as you can. Corners are still hard to do. And then you peel off the excess. And that's how you end up with a good masking on a very thin, narrow area. The last section you're going to want to mask is your hardware. That's because you're going to tend to move it as you manipulate the lunchbox to tape up everything else. So you want to do your hardware last. When dealing with the hardware, the best thing is just to make sure it's covered and then trim away the excess. Once again, putting it in there, using your nail or some other object, even a credit card, the edge of a credit card, the edge of a little chiseler product, you can get those at Home Depot, will help you work your way into the corners there. And when you go around it, once again, stick with the small pieces. And just keep working on your hardware until you have it covered up completely. Your end product is going to look like this. The handle's covered, the hardware's covered, the trim is covered, all the way around, even to the back. This residue hasn't been removed yet. It's picking up dirt. Great. And we've also got a round one here that has been completely done as well. Handle, hardware, trim all around the sides. And then you have to do the inside of the box, because if you really want a great paint job, you're going to want to get this cleaned up as well. So what we've done is we have little bits of paper ready for that. There you go, residue's all gone. And you take your paper, you cut it about to size, you lay it inside the box, and then you tape it up so that you can't see any areas. In fact, I missed a spot. You'll do the same thing in this section too. It's best to go around the edge first with the masking, then put your paper in, and then tape the paper down to the masking. When all is said and done, you're going to have a lunchbox that looks just like this. Everything is taped up. Whatever is not taped is what you're going to end up painting. And then that leads us up to the next part of our video, which is going to be step 2, which is painting.